Welcome to the Innovative Assessment Program's Professional Learning Series, Session 5, which is focusing on understanding the new classroom score reports for grades 6 to 8. My name is Nathan Dady, and I'm partnering with the Louisiana Department of Education to present this information. This session builds on earlier learning sessions about the Innovative Assessment Program. This session and the next session, Session 6, go hand in hand. If you are a classroom teacher, we recommend that you spend 15 to 30 minutes familiarizing yourself with the various score reports, both as part of this session and outside of it, and then spend more time on Session 6, which will walk you through using the Score Report Reflection Guide in conjunction with your score report. For Session 5, the learning objectives are straightforward: to understand the 4 sections of the classroom score report as well as the student report. Let's take a look at our agenda for this session. First, we will briefly review the context of the Innovative Assessment Program, or the IAP, and then move on to the 4 sections of the classroom report. The classroom score report is intended for teachers and meant to help them plan next instructional steps. We will then review the student score report, which is intended for students and parents as well as their caregivers and meant to help them better understand their students' achievement. Note that periodically a pause image will appear on the slide as an indication that you might want to stop the video and review some of the materials in more depth. To begin, we always want to situate our work within the overall goal for English language arts within the state, which is for all students to read, understand, and express their understanding of complex grade level texts. The Innovative Assessment Program, or the IAP, connects the state summative assessment to the ELA guidebook's curriculum. This connection means that the IAP reports can be used to inform instruction in your upcoming or current ELA guidebooks unit. For the 23-24 school year, the student and classroom score reports have been updated for grades 6, 7, and 8. In addition, there is a new supporting document, the Score Report Reflections Guide for grades 6 to 8. This document is meant to help support decision-making on instructional next steps and is meant to be used in conjunction with the classroom score report. Materials for today, including an example classroom score report, are available online at the Zendesk website. You may want to pause the video and make sure that you have downloaded the example classroom score report or have your own classroom score reports handy, since a lot of this session walks through that report. Now we're going to dig into the 4 sections of the classroom score report. So what's new in the 23-24 classroom score report for grades 6, 7, and 8? First, instead of raw scores, student performance is characterized in terms of the LEAP 2025 performance ratings. Unlike raw scores, these ratings can be directly compared across units, meaning that, for example, ratings from The Giver in Window 1 can be compared to ratings from A Christmas Carol or Written in Bone in Window 2. Second, the classroom report is now made up of 4 sections, each of which has a specific purpose. And third and finally, the score report within the grouped roster section provides instructional groupings, specifically 3 groupings. Coupled with these groupings are questions that are meant to help educators identify potential instructional next steps. There are 4 sections within the report. Each one has a specific purpose. We will start with the overall results. You might want to pause the video and make sure that you have your own copy or a sample copy of a classroom score report to refer to. Feel free to pause the video at any time to look at your copy. And know that there are several opportunities throughout this video where we will offer you a chance to pause and respond to a question. The overall results section provides a summary of the number of students in each reporting category at each of the 3 performance ratings. On the score report, students' performance is reported in 3 categories. First is knowledge, which is about how well your students understand the text studied in class. This category is based on a section of the assessments in which your students answered questions about the text read in class to show their understanding of key knowledge and skills taught in the unit. Next is application, which is about how well your students understood a new text related to the idea studied in class. In this section of the assessment, your students read a new text or texts related to what they learned in class and then responded to questions in a writing prompt to show how well they can apply the key knowledge and skills taught in the unit. Third and finally is synthesis, which is about how well your students can write about the text studied in class and the new text. In this section of the assessments, your students wrote an extended response that demonstrates their ability to express their overall understanding of key knowledge they gained in the unit by developing their ideas with information they recall from the unit text, as well as details from the new text provided on the test. Within each reporting category, students are classified as performing either at weak, moderate, or strong levels, which correspond to the LEAP 2025 achievement levels. Weak specifically corresponds to the level of rigor of the unsatisfactory and approaching basic achievement levels on LEAP 2025. Moderate aligns to the level of rigor of the basic achievement level of LEAP 2025, and strong aligns to the level of rigor of the mastery or advanced achievement levels on LEAP 2025. On the front page of the report, we can also see that there are 22 students with scores in this class. Later on, we'll learn that there are 2 additional students who did not test, but were included with this class code. Pause the video here and look at how the 22 students performed on the 3 assessment sections. Take some time and describe what you see. You might have noticed, for example, that 8 students scored weak in the knowledge section, 2 students scored moderate in the knowledge section, and 12 students scored strong in knowledge. Each of the sections summarizes the performance of all 22 students in the class with scores, which means that the 22 students are summarized within the knowledge section, the 22 students are summarized within the application section, and the 22 students are summarized within the synthesis section, with exceptions for students who may have not taken one section of the assessment. Now that we have looked at the overall results section, we are going to look at the grouped roster. The grouped roster divides up the students within the class into 4 groups, one for knowledge, one for application, one for synthesis, and a final group for students who did not receive a score. These groups are meant to help teachers plan future instruction. For example, students in the knowledge group most likely need help understanding the text read in class and the questions asked about them. If we zoom in, we can see that there are 10 students in the knowledge group. These students most likely need help understanding the text read in class and the questions asked about them. Moving on, we can also see that there are 8 students in the application group, and these students most likely need help reading new text independently, as well as relating ideas in new text to what they've learned in class. Next to last, we can see 4 students in the synthesis group, who most likely need help with writing, and in particular by drawing on their knowledge to write about the text. Students are sorted into the groups based on their performance ratings for each reporting category. Where did these numbers come from? Let's walk through how the students are grouped next. These groups were created by first sorting the class roster based on performance of each of the 3 categories, starting with knowledge and sorting from weak to strong, then repeating that sorting with application and finally synthesis. Then the 10 students who have a rating of weak or moderate or knowledge are placed into the knowledge group. After that, the 8 students who have a weak or moderate on application are placed into the application group. Finally, the remaining 4 students are placed into the synthesis group. Then the 2 students without scores are placed into the no score group. Each of these groups of students are shown in their own table within the grouped roster section. After the summary of the groups on the first page of the grouped roster, there are individual tables for the groups of students that show the score profiles. The table for the knowledge group is shown here on the left. Remember that the 10 students in the knowledge group scored weak or moderate in the knowledge section, and so this table shows how they scored both on the knowledge section as well as the other sections. Before each table, there are a few reflection questions which are meant to help guide considerations of what supports are likely to be most helpful to the students. Session 6 will walk through these questions, and these questions also appear in the score report reflection guide. So remember, the 10 students in the knowledge group scored weak or moderate in the knowledge section, and this table shows the results in knowledge as well as for application and synthesis, and the rubric dimensions of the essay used to produce the synthesis rating. Let's zoom in on student 5 and make sure we're all on the same page about what this report is telling us. On this slide, we can see the results for student 5. The first 3 columns contain the performance ratings, strong, moderate, and weak, on the 3 reporting categories, knowledge, application, and synthesis. Next, we can see the scores on the essay that makes up the synthesis reporting category. The scores provided within reading comprehension and written expression is the rubric score, which is scored from 0 to 4 points times by 2. So this student who has a score of 2 received a 1 on the rubric. Finally, the knowledge and use of language conventions columns provides the rubric score for the dimension without any adjustments. So this is the score directly from the rubric. Before each of the tables, there are reflection questions which are meant to help guide considerations of what supports are most likely to be helpful to this group of students. These questions are also in the score report reflection guides and connect to instructional next steps or levers for instruction. Now we'll move on to the classroom profile section of the report. The grouped roster section that we just reviewed put students into 3 groups based on where they were most likely to need help. The profile section instead shows the number of students for each unique combination of ratings for the 3 categories. This collapses the roster table into unique patterns of ratings on knowledge, application, and synthesis. So we can see that there are 3 students who have weak on all 3 reporting categories, and we'll walk through how we got that count of 3 students on the next slide. The top of this slide shows the data for all 3 students who scored weak in all 3 reporting categories. In this case, students 2, 3, and 4 all had the same scores. The profile table collapses this data into a count and shows the number of students for each unique pattern. This is a finer grained grouping of students than what was shown in the grouped rosters. Finally, we will look at the comparison section of the report. The comparison section of the report shows how your class of students compared to students in the school system, and all students taking the IAP. Pause the video and take a few moments to describe how the class in this report or your report compared to other groups of students in one or more sections. After you restart the video, I'll note what I noticed in the example report. You might have noticed things like more students in the class were rated as strong compared to the school or IAP in the knowledge category. What did you notice in the report? Now that we've reviewed the classroom score report, we will take a little bit of time to review the student score report. The student report provides the same information as the classroom report, specifically performance on each of the 3 reporting categories, knowledge, application, and synthesis, by their performance ratings, strong, moderate, and weak. However, this is at the level of the individual student. So this report is meant to be sent home with students to provide parents and caregivers with an update about how their student is doing. Ideally, this information can foster productive conversations between students and their parents or caregivers, and also support engagement between teachers, students, and their parents and caregivers. In addition to ratings for each category, the report also provides information on what a student at that level is able to do and what they may still need help doing. In the example shown on the screen, you can see that a student who scored moderate on application is likely able to identify main ideas in a new text and determine the meanings of key words and phrases, but may still need help analyzing complex text elements and providing supporting evidence when writing about a new text. This feedback was created through careful analysis of student data on the IAP. However, it may not fit every student. Some students who score a modern application may be able to analyze complex text elements, or may even struggle to identify main ideas within the new text. So this feedback is meant to be a starting point in considering what a student can do. Finally, the student report also provides a comparison of student performance at the class, school system, and overall IAP level. This brings us to our final section of the session, which is a simple call-out note that summarizes what we've learned. First, the IAP Classroom Score Report was designed to provide data in ways that are meant to match what you're used to seeing, your classroom roster, but reordered and grouped in ways that hopefully support instructional next steps. An important part of the Classroom Score Report, the reflection questions, are also within the Score Report Reflections Guide, which is the subject of the next learning module. Finally, the Student Score Report is designed to promote conversations between students, parents, caregivers, and teachers in ways that support student learning. Thank you for your partnership and participation in the Innovative Assessment Program. The next session in this learning series will focus on the Score Report Reflection Guide.